What's up everyone, it's DevBird here. In today's episode I'm going to teach you how to spin objects around. And I'm also going to be teaching you about generic events. We already use generic events in our dialog option system. But just to make sure, you should be using this in your interact system too. Because it's going to help you a lot in the long run. So let's focus on our object spinning script first. So I'm just going to create a new script and call it object spinner. And we're simply just going to open that up. And it's going to be super simple. We're just going to have a public float, call it speed, and say GameObject.transform.rotate. And we're going to rotate it around the y-axis. So do time.delta time multiplied by speed, and then have 0 for the z-axis. So basically all this does is spin our object around the y-axis. And so let's put that on our script. And let's put it on 150. So I put it on my heart object here. I'm going to play, and it's going to spin around. So that's how you can get a little neat spin effect. And I'm going to default all of the speed to 150, so whenever I attach this script onto a new object, like so, it's going to default to 150. And now I can just spin any object around. Pretty neat, huh? Alright, so remove that. Let's get to the second part of our tutorial, which is generic object or generic events. So I'm going to create a script called generic interact. Open it up, and we're going to be deriving from interactable. And let's just get rid of all of this. And all we're going to need is a public Unity event. But it's not going to allow us to use Unity event unless we're using Unity engine.events. So the way I did that is hit Alt-Enter, and I just went down and selected using Unity engine.events, and then now I can use Unity events. So let's call this events. Then we're going to say public override void interact. So we're gonna override our interact method, and we're gonna simply check if events is equal to null or not. Or I should say not equal to null. And if it's not null, then we'll do events.invoke. And with just that, we can go over to our heart and drag in our generic interact. And you see we have events here, and we can just add as many events as we want. Let's say in this case we'll make the shelf disappear. So I can reference any object in my scene view and say, let's say, turn the object off. Set active bool to false. And with just that, I can go over to the heart, press Z, and then the shelf disappears. And so this way you can do a lot of different things. You usually want to use this generic interact whenever you have a super unique event that you want to trigger. Let me show you what else you can do with it. So I'm going to go over to my dialog trigger here, and I'm going to make a new method and call it public void set index. And I'm going to say int I. So I'm going to be passing through a integer through the method. And I'm going to say index is equal to I. And then I'm going to take my heart, and I'm going to add a new event, drag in my test NPC, and set the dialog trigger set index to 3. So I went ahead and created a dialogue, a super special one for this video. It's called heart dialogue, and it's the 3rd index, and it says, hey, I can see you picked up a heart. And so let's go over and talk to her, and she says, hello Phil NPC, I'm Link. Hi Link, I'm just an NPC. And then go over to this heart, hit Z, and the shelf disappears, and I go over to talk to her, and she says, hey, I see you picked up a heart. So with just that, you can change the index of your NPCs, have them say different things. And honestly, the sky's the limit here. You can add as many events as you want. You can drag in any object in your scene view and manipulate however you want. And so you should be using this a lot in your game. If you're not, if you're creating an RPG, I use generic interactions or say specifically events a lot. And so if you're not using it, you should be. And hope you learned something. I'll see you guys next time. I'd like to thank my Patreons, Alejandro, Kovian, Bay, Emerson, Kirijo, Polybius, and Yuan. If you want to become a Patreon, you can support me at patreon.com/devbird, where you can join my Discord, or you can just join the Discord in the link description below. And there you can suggest videos or ask me questions, and I'll see you guys next time.